Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of Let the Story Write Itself podcast. To, Today, I really want to talk about the idea of just allowing yourself to be pulled by what you're most led by, what you're most lit up by, and what you're most curious by. And, this stems back to that 4-day train journey I took from Vancouver to Toronto. And it was like not and obviously, it was like this intuitive idea that just came to me, and it kind of lit up because I was like, "What is that odd niggling factor? Like this idea that like somehow I'm meant to move. I'm not meant to just stay in the place that I'm at or do the current thing that I'm doing. I'm supposed to get out of the box in some way, right? This is where your higher self is thinking, doing the thinking for you in a sense, because your logical mind, your human mind, might be so fixated on like what's in front of you. It's not necessarily seeing from a higher vantage point. And this is where you lean in to your higher self. Or a lot of times your higher self is knocking on your door, so to speak. And that's where you get like this recurring thought, or there's just this recurring idea, just this thing you keep thinking about. And I called it this like niggling factor. And it kind of keeps like niggling at you, and it's just there. And it was just kept saying, go to Toronto, go to Toronto. And it was kind of very similar to when I was 17. I just this idea, go travel, go travel. It just this one was way more specific. And I was in Vancouver at the time, and I was enrolled actually in a life coaching program. And I was just kind of like enjoying life. Like I like living in Vancouver, but at the same time, I also had been feeling a little bit like stagnant. I'm like, well, I feel like I'm just kind of doing the same thing every day. Like, what what more is there in a sense? So there was a little bit of an inquiry and exploration. And essentially, that's the idea that I was just like in that state of being led by intuition and allowing myself to be that, nearly a decade after being 17 and not necessarily exploring that idea at the time. So this was like my reclaiming of my personal power and being like, well, this time, if I'm getting an idea, I'm going for it. I'm doing it. I'm going to see what's on the other side. And, one thing leads to another. Next thing I know, I'm in Toronto for a month. And that whole month kind of just unfolded of its own accord as well. I had a one-way ticket. I didn't necessarily have a plan for after Toronto. I just kind of left it to the same way that it took me from the train ride without necessarily having a plan or an idea or something in advance and just being like, yeah, I'm just going with where I'm being pulled. And through this, it's like the journey itself became the moments. Like it wasn't about getting somewhere. It was like, wow, this 4-day train ride is quite the experience in itself, actually. And then arriving in the train station in Toronto, it's quite grand, right? The one that's like just by the waterfront. I'm like, wow, it's like every moment it was just this feeling of expansion and like I wasn't necessarily traveling. Like I didn't have the idea like, oh, I'm going traveling or I'm going on a holiday or something. I was just like it was just like the adventure of life and like being led by that curiosity and that innate sense that you're just like a soul in a human form experiencing life and like all the physical elements of it, like the physical expression that you see like all around you that you can see, taste, touch, feel, think, like all of these things are, in a sense, like, if you're thinking about like on an energetic particle level, are these things actually real or are they just kind of like, the projection that your brain and your eyes and that optical illusion that it like forms in front of you? And so it's just like all these culmination of different factors, and you're like, what is life really all about? And it's really just you as a soul come into human form experiencing it. And your own energetic resonance with your alignment with like your own soul is what pulls you to the physical experience. And so I wasn't set off and like, okay, I want to go here and I want to go there and I want to do this and I want to do that. It was just more in my soul. I just had this feeling of like, well, I'm just like I was really just kind of in this state of like allowing and flow and surrender. Like I wasn't really trying to make anything happen. And that's where I feel like you are the most connected to your divine self and like any downloads and channeled ideas, that intuitive way to like see beyond yourself, your human mind in a sense. And that's where you really, it's almost like your third eye just kind of opens up and you're thinking a little bit more from a feeling place. You're being more led by your heart and you're being spirit led essentially. You're just acting more from intuition. And that's what the whole thing is, if you see it from maybe an outsider's perspective, you're just like, this person's just like a wanderer, they're just like a free spirit, they're just like a nomad. That's essentially what I was, just kind of going with the flow and going where I feel led. I might as well have had like, a journal with me and like one of those knapsacks and just like as if I'm just going on like a backpacking trip. But I was carrying like actual luggage, but at the same time, like the heart and the essence of it was just like an adventure at core. And so I get to Toronto, and then I this whole month just unfolds. And next thing I know, lo and behold, the next part of this stage kind of lights up, and it's like, okay, now go to Spain. The next thing I know, I'm in Spain for almost 2 months. Like now it's like March 2016, so I'm there from like March, April, and actually from Spain, I end up going to Morocco, and that was also unplanned. And how that actually happened is that I started off in Barcelona in Spain, and somehow I made my way to Andalusia, like the south coast, southern coast, and specifically in a place called Malaga was like my base point for almost 2 months essentially. I spent like I think maybe a week, 10 days in Barcelona. And then did I, or even was it even less than that? I have to recall, but this was in 2016. So I don't remember the exact days. I either spent like a week or 10 days in Barcelona. Anyway, at some point I moved to, I was called like, well, what happened really is that I was like, just like in Barcelona. I was like, okay, that's cool and all, but I'm not really here for travel. I'm not really here just for sightseeing, right? So I was just kind of on this walking tour that I decided to join to see some of the like architectural sites and places of interest and just to, do something, I guess, in the day. And I even like was like enrolled in this language program, like maybe I should learn some Spanish while I'm here or something, like at least do something productive, right? So I was actually trying to do stuff beyond just like doing nothing all day or just I wasn't even necessarily in my home country, like in Toronto, at least it felt like I was like I had that temporary job that I kind of just fell into my lap for like the 3 weeks that I was there. So it lended some structure and it lended like it kind of filled my time with like some productivity as well. Like it wasn't simply just like out and about sightseeing all day. And and obviously, like I'm still in my home country, so I still have like my home phone plan. I can still get errands done and banking and all that stuff. It's like it's not the same thing as being literally in a different country now. It's like you don't have your banking, you don't have your phone plan. You can't really do just things that your like daily life and errands in the same way, right? It's not as easy. So I was, and then I was thinking like maybe like there's some kind of like temporary job that I can just pick up here because actually the company that had hired me that had like that had fallen into my lap when I was in Toronto, they're like an international company, so it was very likely. And I was like, maybe that will happen then. I just threw a word out like, I'm in Barcelona, I'm in Spain. Is there anything here I could do? But I'm also kind of just like feeling like, yeah, I'm not really feeling like I'm actually going to be working this month in that sense. But I was on this walking tour and the guide, she noticed, she's like, hey, are you feeling all right? I guess I maybe didn't look like that happy, or I was just kind of like hanging like at the back and just like no no no, and she's like I'm like oh yeah yeah, and then I kind of told her about my story, how I just came here on a whim, and I was like just kind of following like a feeling and just going where I felt led. And I was in Toronto for a month, and then the next thing I knew I was like got a call to go to Spain, and then here I am, and I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm just kind of like I'm enjoying it, but at the same time I don't really have any plan. And I was like, yeah, I just feel like I need more of a purpose, I guess. Like I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time. Like I definitely was called to Spain. That part was clear. So I didn't feel any desire to like just turn back and be like I'm going home, but it just felt like oh there's something that's just off right now. And she's like, hey, have you heard of this site called Workaway? And I was like, no. She's like, maybe that's more of your interest, like you get to connect with like community and be more like like you were saying, because my word was purpose. She's like, it was a bit more of a purpose. I'm like, oh okay. And then later that evening I actually went back to my accommodation. It was like in a hostel, and I like went on my laptop and I just looked up Workaway, and I was like, interesting. This is like like I'm aware of like all these like global like work abroad programs or even like volunteer, but I always like saw like they involved like very like lots of application fees or a lot of a huge process. You're going through like a third party type of thing, and it just felt so like I would just never actually follow through. I was like, oh, whatever. I'm so tired from looking all this. And it was just so many like, and then it always just seemed too packaged. Like it was more like a company type of thing rather, and it felt like I don't know, it just didn't connect with any of it. So this particular one was like it was like a website, and you have like a whole bunch of hosts like worldwide, and they would literally just post their own like whatever they were looking for. So like maybe someone's like, oh, I want someone to help with like language skills. I want someone to help with babysitting. I want someone to help with reception. I want to help someone who's going to help me with some yard work. I want some help on a farm, or there's some also very unique things, like unique properties. Like there's people who like having like places in the desert, places that seem so remote or like off grid kind of thing. And they're literally just posting their particular place. So it's like very, and like a lot of these places, something like they're more rural or they're like in places you wouldn't necessarily think of going, or like experiences even like very niche things as well. Like maybe it's like beadwork or help with like this particular business or this particular plantation or this particular project, or they have a mission or values or, a particular something that they want to just connect with other people who might be able to help them in a sense. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually quite interesting. And then I was like, well, what's there in Spain? And I was like looking, and then there was this like because I'm so much more intuitive, I tend to go more with the feeling, I guess, than like, even though like if I was just reading it on like that level, I would be like, oh my gosh, all of these like sound so interesting. Like, oh my gosh, I'd be interested in all of these in some way or fashion or form. But truthfully, if I go to the heart of the matter, what truly lights me up, it's not the things that I have to think about too much or have to analyze, and that gives me like a bit of a headache. In fact, it's really the things that I just immediately like. I'm very instinctual. I'm like, I don't know if it has to do with my human design chart. Like I'm like a sacral authority. I'm very like gut feeling based. Like I have to feel it in my gut. I'm just very like a response, like I'm a manifesting generator. So like all these aspects are like how I perceive and like process information. So it's like for me, it's like I don't need to analyze things or really think that much. Like that would just give me a headache or get me down like this analysis paralysis type of thing. What I really need to do is just like allow my gut instinct to draw me, be like, that's the one. Like I knew it. Like, yes. And then that's essentially what happened. I was just scrolling, reading through all these. I'm like, yeah, these all sound good. I even was like searching other countries. I'm like, oh, there's something in Mongolia there. Oh my goodness, there's something in Nepal. Like literally just going worldwide. I'm like, there's some really interesting stuff going on here. And there, I think it was like an annual membership fee. It was like, just like a normal fee, like $60 or something for a year. I'm like, okay, I just signed up. I created an account like that same evening. Just kind of like wrote a brief blurb. Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm in Spain right now for the month or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't put that much. I just put my photo and then just like maybe like 2 lines. Like I didn't write that much essentially. And and then I just saw this. And then for some reason there was like this photo and it was like just something about it. Like I don't know, maybe it was the angle or the glow or just whatever. Like I was just like, oh, that looks interesting. I just like it wasn't even about the listing. I was like, because I had read so much about all the descriptions, I'm like, these all sound good. So it wasn't like a logical decision. It's like there's something about this place that tugs at my heartstrings. Like my heart is feeling like drawn to this place for some reason. Or just something about it is like has this aura, this feeling. Like I don't know, it's just like whenever I hold this feeling in my heart. It's like sometimes when I'm like just bicycling on my bike or just like out and about, like in my hometown in the river valley, when I was like doing all that, long before I ventured further out, the feeling I would always hold in my heart is this feeling of being like expanded of almost like heaven on earth. You feel like you're in heaven on earth. Like it's literally this immense feeling of like gratitude and appreciation, and as if you're just like you're so like in the state of it's like beyond joy. I don't even know how to explain it. I often can tap into that feeling very easily. And it's like I don't even know how to put into words, but it's just like this feeling like all is well in the world. Like everything is so well and it feels so warm and like highly like supported and just so well. It's almost like the grass couldn't be greener. It's just so vibrant. Everything has just come alive and you're just so like it's like the feelings when you're just like these feelings I always often had when I was like a child, like in childhood, just like on a summer day, or even just like even just like in my neighborhood, or just like out in the garden, or with at home with my family, or playing ball, or like at anything, like just so many like just moments I remember the sunlight like coming through the window and like being surrounded like by all the things I love. Like I don't know, just this feeling of immense joy. And I was like, for some reason, something about that just like evoked that feeling. And this is often how I am drawn or led by the feeling. Where I'm like, oh, interesting. So I just kind of wrote a quick blurb. It was very instinctual. I didn't think that much about it. I'm like, hey, I'm in Barcelona right now. I'm like available to help out whenever, or like very, very simple. Okay, so I don't remember exactly what I wrote. I didn't even write like I didn't even write that much. Like I didn't even try to explain myself or be like, this is what I can help with, or this is what I didn't give a resume or anything. Like who knows? I'm like, I'm not doing any of that. I'm like, this person is either gonna say yes or no. Like I'm not gonna be with the person who wants me to give them a huge like blurb, or like I have to really justify myself. Like it was just kind of like an introduction. I was like, I had already created an account and a profile. So you verify yourself in that way. And then it's just like, yes, I'm in Barcelona, and hey, I'm in Spain essentially, and I'm willing to, I guess, travel if you're in Spain somewhere. And they were like in Andalusia, Malaga specifically. And it was like right by the beach. And for some reason, like something about this photo was just like evoked a certain feeling in me. I'm like, wow, this is like the feeling that I feel so familiar with in a sense. Just that feeling of immense gratitude, appreciation, like wow, like wonder, awe, like thankfulness. And I had just like I sent out an application to a few of them, but I wasn't really I wasn't really thinking too much. I just like kind of picked a few that interested me, and then I think, and as you will have it, the one that actually replies to me, the ones that actually like the one that I actually wanted the most, or like that I had that feeling about, it moved so quickly. They were like literally replied to me like the next day, and or was it even the same evening? I don't recall, but very fast. And they were like, "Yeah, we could help. We just had someone leave quite suddenly, and we need help like right away." And I was like, "Okay, I can be there in like." Whenever the train gets there, like I guess it takes a day or something. And this is what happened that I then hopped on to the next available train from Barcelona to Andalusia. I think I stopped in like Valencia, and then from there I made my way to Malaga. So it was like a whole day trip. I wanted to take like the nice slower train by the coast and just enjoy the day trip or whatever. So I think I arrived. I departed like the next day or the day after. Like I booked the next train, like after giving myself a bit of time to like gather my pack up and then change location. And I was like, okay, I took the morning train from Barcelona, had like a few stops all along the coast, like essentially towards like through Andalusia, which is like the south coast of Spain. And then my arrival point was in Malaga, which is where I then like I think I had to take a bus, and then I arrived at this place. It was like a hostel, and it was like it was right by the beach, and it was just something where like they were asking for someone to help with the reception from certain hours of the day in exchange for like just stay at their place. And it was like this feeling of like you're contributing somehow. But I guess you're getting something in return. So you're not quite working, but you're also kind of just like doing a bit of an exchange that felt like you're part of the community. And it's kind of like this purpose-driven atmosphere. And I was like, oh my gosh, something about this just kind of worked out seamlessly. And I was like, like I just felt like everything was just so flowy. Like it didn't take much effort. And there were like a couple of other ones that I was just like it just didn't click. Like they were asking me weird questions, or questions I didn't care to answer, or just like, or it was kind of like, yeah, we're over here. And it's like, I don't actually feel like I want to go to that part of Spain. I think there was one in like more like closer to Madrid, and then there were like other locations. And then at the end of the day, while I was looking out, there's one that wanted more help with like language or like, and I was like, yeah, but to be honest, I'm not really that. I don't much just want to go to. So I was like very much like this is the one I want, and it didn't take that much like logical analysis. I was just like that feeling, and so I will continue with the you know what then transpired during this time when I was in Malaga. So starting in Barcelona and now going to Malaga, and just listening to my heart, listening to my intuition, essentially just following that path of like what led me to the Workaway website in the first place, and then what led me to that particular host that then brought me to the south of Spain via Andalusia, and then in Malaga for the following 2 months essentially. And then from there, actually, because the nighttime the receptionist that they have was actually from originally from Morocco. And that's how like I started getting like Morocco was on my mind now, because they were like talking about Morocco, and they were like, yeah, you should go. And I was like, it actually it's actually literally like right next door. And so suddenly I was like, maybe I should go. And then at some point it was like just inevitable. Like I was in Malaga for like 2 months, and I probably even could have stayed for 3 months in fact. But so from there, I just went on to Morocco. So you can see how I was like in Toronto. Oh, I was in Vancouver, then I was in Toronto, then I was in Barcelona in Spain. Then next thing I know, I'm in Andalusia and Malaga. And then from there, I go to Morocco, right? So this is how the journey kind of just unfolds of its own accord. And so that is episode 20 of Let the Story Write Itself. And I will continue this in the next episode.